Hey everyone, thought I'd make a video on how to simplify the chicken biryani making process. Now, obviously, making biryani is quite complex, intricate, and a lengthy process, but if you approach it analytically and break down the whole process into separate phases and smaller tasks, each task becomes easily manageable. So let's try and do just that. I've broken it down into 4 phases: the prep, the initial bake, assembly, and the final bake. Phase 1 is basically the marination, so you'd want to do it the night before. Phase 2 has most of the work involved, and the next 2 phases are pretty easy, so they're easily done. Also, to keep track of the tasks, look out for the progress bar at the bottom. That should help you. Alright, so sing happy birthday to yourself twice while washing your hands, and let's get started. Here are the ingredients for the spice mix. Now, not everybody is going to have these at home, and you don't have to get them all right. Don't make an unnecessary grocery run, just do the best you can. And if you can use substitute ingredients, go for it. If you need suggestions on what substitute ingredients to use, let's make it a discussion. So go ahead, pop your spices in the oven, let them dehydrate for 4 to 5 minutes, and then transfer them to a dry blender jar and blitz them, and your spice mix is ready. This will last you about a couple of months, and you can use it for a variety of dishes. Next up is the chicken. I got 2 back attached chicken legs, which weigh about half a kilo totally. Traditionally they're marinated as is, but I separated the drumstick and the thigh just because I like smaller portions. I'm going to use these ingredients for the initial rub and then add the yogurt. If you don't have ginger garlic paste at home, don't worry about it. It's super easy to make. All you have to do is take 2 parts of garlic, 1 part of ginger and volume, peel them, clean them, throw them in a blender jar, add some water, blitz them, make them a thick paste, and that's it. Obviously, feel free to adjust the ingredients to suit your spice tolerance. You can replace the chili powder with paprika and so on. After the initial rub, I'm adding my favorite meat tenderizer, which is yogurt. Does a great job. That's it, give it a good rub, store it in the fridge overnight, and let the calcium and the lactic acid do their job. The next day we start with phase 2. Now most of the work goes into this phase, as I mentioned earlier, so let's talk about that for a moment. It takes about an hour to bake your chicken, so you can use your time efficiently and complete the rest of the tasks on phase 2 in the meantime. Feel free to use this Gantt chart up on the screen. I made sure that no 2 tasks started at the same time, and also at the end of all these tasks you have about a 15-minute buffer before your chicken gets completely baked. So get the chicken out of your fridge, put it in the oven in an oven-safe pot, cover it, let it bake at 175°C for about an hour. And while that happens, let's start cutting our onions. Typically you'd need 2 or 3 large yellow onions, but I only had red onions at home, so I just used them without freaking out. So go ahead, just julienne the onions carefully. Make sure that you clean your hands, watch your fingers when you cut, and use a sharp knife. That's really safe. Once you're done cutting your onions, separate the julienne pieces like so and saute them in a wide pan on low heat. Well, traditionally, these onions are deep fried, but I don't want you to be wasting your oil for something that's going to taste pretty much the same whether you deep fry it or you shallow fry it. Take some time to gently dehydrate the onions while nudging the sugars into caramelization. Now, this part definitely takes some patience and consistency, but obviously you'll end up with deliciously golden brown caramelized onions, unlike mine, which look pretty much like tar. But that's because I used red onions, and I don't care. They tasted great, so I'm fine with my decision. For my rice, I'm using an electric cooker. One of the hallmarks of a good biryani is to have perfectly cooked rice with each grain intact and distinct. And for that, you need to stop cooking your rice and drain the water before it's completely boiled. That's referred to as parboiled rice, but I really can't quantify that, so use the portions in this picture as a guide. These portions are from different phases in the cooking process, and you should stop cooking and drain your water when your rice reaches about somewhere between these two levels of doneness. Now, draining your excess water is not a great thing to do, but you just gotta do it to get rid of the excess starch, to keep the rice grains from sticking to each other, just so that your biryani is perfectly done. The rest of the toppings are pretty easy. Just wash and chop some coriander roughly, hardboil 2 eggs, peel them, and then mix turmeric with a couple of tablespoons of milk. I also made some beet juice and some mint juice to add to the rice, but this is totally optional. I had a camera running and I just need more colors on the rice, so I had to do it. And that's it. Now we're at the fun part of assembly. Just make sure that you get all your accomplishments within arm's reach and start layering your biryani. Add about 1/3 of your rice to the chicken and give it a good mix. This is the bottom layer, and this will be your spiciest layer. So when you eat, make sure that whoever's tolerance to spice is high, they get this part of rice. And top your layer with the rest of your toppings. Do a quick taste test, and this is a good time to adjust your salt. You can add salt between each layer if you like, and keep going 1/3 of your rice at a time. And once you're done with all your layers, then top your top layer generously with all the rest of your toppings, stuck in your eggs, and empty your coloring juices into different areas of the rice for presentation. Once you're done with that, properly seal your oven safe pot and pop it into the oven for 30 minutes. Just make sure that you properly seal the pot, because the rice has to cook with the steam that's generated and the pressure that's generated within the pot. That's it. The 30 minutes would cook the rice completely and bring everything together so that the flavors between the chicken and the rice are properly permeated. And at this point, if you're not completely tired, first of all, who are you? But also, just go ahead and clean up all your dishes in your kitchen, clean your kitchen counter, stovetop, everything, and just don't leave any evidence behind. Well, there you have it, guys. A delectable homemade chicken biryani. Plate it up and dig into it. But honestly, save some for later, because it tastes better if you store it in the fridge and reheat it for the next meal. Enjoy, stay safe, and stay healthy.